Welcome everybody. First things first, as always, if I could just get a quick audio visual check, please. Let me know you can see my charts clearly and hear me all right. How are you guys all doing this fine day wherever you are? After a quick confirmation, just so I know I'm not talking to myself or have myself muted or anything like that, we will get started. I do hope that you're all having a fantastic day this fine day. I just wanted to do a short update of my thoughts on the market before I head out of town for a kite surfing event here. Haven't done a stream in a couple days here, so I figured I would give you a short one before I leave here. Good to see that we're starting to fill up. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for being here with me once again. Audio, video, good. Perfect. Thank you so much, Red Panda. Appreciate it. Welcome back. Great to see some familiar faces. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. Bitcoin is at a very dangerous level, in my opinion, you guys. This goes for both the Moon Boys as well as the Doom and Gloomers. The bulls have made a very nice recovery, but no matter how you slice it, we are currently at a major resistance level. Of course, resistance levels break all the time, so it could definitely happen here as well. But I just basically want to proceed with caution at these levels for many reasons. So let's dive right into the charts here, starting off on the 4-hour chart here. You guys know that I've been talking about this level for a while, basically ever since we ended up breaking my micro trend around 89K. I thought it was a very reasonable possibility that we end up testing the full swing of things in that case, right? And that brings us up to our STUBER fib, which was right between that 102 to 106K region. And just notice that we filled this absolutely perfectly. Hit the 886, and that's where we've basically been struggling for the last week or two. So it's obviously an important level in the market. It's obviously a level of interest. And yeah, like I said, it's just no matter how you look at it, it is a level of resistance. And that goes across basically every time frame, you guys. On the 4-hour here, this is no crazy market structure. Those of you guys who are in my Telegram just who have followed me in general, you guys will know that this is a typical STUBER fib setup, right? Yes, it feels a little bit different because it's a much larger one than some of the ones I typically point out on the 5-minute or anything. But if we took these numbers away, guys, because at the end of the day, market structure is the most important part of trading for me. I really don't care about these big emotional numbers on the side. Everybody likes to say, oh, the price can't hit that level, or we're going to whatever prices, just because they have these numbers in their head. I really don't give a shit about these numbers on the side. What I really care about is the structure of the chart. And if this 4-hour chart was a 5-minute chart, I would be laddering in shorts, basically the 786, 886, the 1, and all the way up towards my invalidation of the setup. So that's the thing, guys, too, is understand that even if we do break a little bit higher, it's not like Bitcoin's in the clear if we go a little bit higher. We still have this room for a liquidity grab, some sort of a swing fail, which, I mean, the way I have this laid out as a typical STUBER fib, it's really, the bearish scenario is not invalidated until we're above 115K. So there is still a lot of wiggle room to the upside where, the bulls have a lot of work to do to prove that they want to get this, the parabolic run that we're all promised and that we all just feel entitled to, right? So we're going to have to see. Absolutely, you guys, if we start staircasing higher, then we just, on the way up, we just continue setting. If we set a higher high, at that point, we have a confirmed higher low and the trend continues, right? But the reason why I have my concerns right now is technically on a very micro level here on the 4-hour, we did lose some structure. Right. Yeah, we got a little bit of a bounce, but that's just very typical. And I know a lot of you guys are going to know where I'm going with this. But this structure break is just a much smaller version of what I just showed you, where once again, notice we lose that trend. We test the 786, 886 fib pocket, and we got a rejection there. This is obviously a much smaller range, and it has hit its first 2 take profits already. And that's actually a short position that I'm in. I shared it in the Telegram as I was taking it. I'll go into that in a little bit. That was earlier this week. But again, that's just basic market structure, right? If I look at it on the 5-minute chart, This is the trade setup that I'm talking about. Same thing, right? We had that loss of structure. We get that bounce. Everybody starts screaming for, we're going so much higher, all-time highs right around the corner, et cetera, et cetera. That's very normal. You always see FOMO kick in right at resistance, just like you see fear really kick in right at support, right? The price always looks strongest at resistance and it always looks weakest at support. And again, whether it's the 5-minute like this, or let me just erase a couple of these things here just because we're back on the 4-hour chart here. Yeah, like I said, this is basically the exact same market structure, right? We have our loss of the range. We end up going a little further down. We get a retracement eventually into that fib pocket. So again, just reasons to be cautious there. Zooming out, the daily, we obviously have the exact same structure, the exact same Fibonacci pocket, the same level of resistance. So whether it's the 5-minute, the 4-hour, the daily, the weekly, we're in that same pocket, obviously. The monthly, I'm pointing out something different. I'll get into that in a little bit here. But basically, any time frame that you look at it, it is what it is. We are just trading at resistance. And what I want to go over here, guys, is does it make sense that I know I've thrown out some very bearish theories in the past, and I am very happy to have those invalidated. A lot of my red flags were invalidated, but we never did actually continue the uptrend yet. That's my issue, is that just we're starting to respect the level of resistance that I was kind of expecting here. So we just have to be cautious, right? But does it make sense that this market cycle could be, whether it has topped or if it's getting near a top, does it make sense that we just go absolutely parabolic and this run is just getting started? Let's really zoom out, you guys, to the monthly time frame here. And this is actually the MDX Wave Master indicator, a beautiful momentum indicator, and especially on a long time frame like this. Just notice what has happened when we've got these crosses. I know a lot of you guys have seen this at this point, but something that I mapped out is basically how long the moves have taken now. So whenever we've got these bearish crosses out of overbought conditions, it's been bear market on. When we got the bullish cross from oversold conditions, it's been bull market on. And does it make sense that we are just starting this market cycle like a lot of people on social media seem to think? Well, what happened last time when we had this, right? When we got our bullish cross, it was a perfect market bottom, right? All of these crosses have been absolutely perfect on the monthly. And last cycle, when we got our bullish one, it lasted about 26 months until we got our bearish cross. And then it was, we got a little bit of a recovery, but it was still just the warning shot fired that was basically the end of the cycle, even though it got that dead cat bounce kind of a thing, a retest, just like kind of what we're seeing right now, possibly, obviously. But yeah, it was about 26 months. Right? And what do we have now from our last bullish cross to where we got our bearish cross? We're sitting at 28 months, you guys. So actually it has, we've got this bullish move for actually a little bit longer than last cycle based on this metric here. And, yeah, it can change, right? It doesn't have to play out the same. Obviously, anything can happen. I'm just looking at this as does it make sense? Because, so many people on social media are saying that this market cycle is really just getting started. Guys, in my opinion, the market cycle was getting started when I got bullish, when I was buying down below 20K. The fact that we've ridden 20K up towards 100K, I don't feel like the market owes me anything. That's the thing. A lot of people feel very entitled that they just have to get this big parabolic bull market, because a lot of them never even ended up getting back into the market until we were back around all-time highs, getting FOMO into resistance. It's kind of a common theme, right? So a lot of people feel like there has to be a much larger cycle. But when we look at it on a timing basis here, we're kind of getting to that time in the market cycle where, and also the fact on a monthly time frame when momentum is crossing like this, it's just something that we can't totally ignore is the thing, right? As traders, we need to have a plan. We need to have a backup plan. And obviously, as I've mentioned many times, if we go absolutely parabolic from here, we get a crazy altcoin season and all that sort of stuff that everybody's hoping for, I will be just as excited as everybody. I promise. I have a bunch of spot. I still have almost all my investments. I treat trading and investing very differently. I am mega bullish on crypto as a whole long term. It's just that short term and how I'm trading doesn't make sense that we could see some bearish price action. I think it makes sense. And I think we could go a lot deeper than a lot of people are thinking. And some of you, this might ring a bell, is I can't remember exactly where we were. I think it was when we were trading right around here, actually. We were at around 105K, and I mentioned that I thought we were going to drop down to, I believe it was 93K, because we had a bullish STUBER at that point. Yeah. And I was told on stream that I would never see those prices again. And we actually went significantly lower. And now when I'm talking about the exact same kind of a setup, a lot of people are telling me that, no, we aren't going to see the levels that I'm talking about, because my targets of this bigger STUBER fib here, if this range is going to play out as a typical STUBER fib, the price targets, just for the range targets, not an actual breakout, but playing the range for what it is, the first two take profits are 10 and 20,000 US dollars away, right? This fib down here, the 0.5 fib target, is down around 93 to 92K. The 214 fib target, which that's generally my main range target, but taking profits along the way, obviously. But that's down all the way around 82K. So just to kind of put things into perspective, that would not even be, and I want to be clear about this, guys. If we get that sort of a retracement, some sort of a sell-off here down to those levels, I'm not even considering that all that bearish at that point. That's just healthy price action on more of a swing trade level. Everybody likes to say that, you know, they're swing traders. Most people pretend that they're not degenerates and that, oh, they're only trading the 4 hour up. But when you're looking at the actual 4 hour, the only reasonable long setups I see at this point, as far as a swing trade, you guys know that I'm more of a scalper. I am a degenerate trading the 5 minute and, you know, those types of time frames. But the people who pretend that they don't, the only long setup that I currently see on this chart is down at this purple box down here. And again, that's kind of very close to my bearish targets, right? Around that 82K. This pocket is actually around 81 down towards 78K. And my reasoning for that, I mean, you guys probably know where I'm going with this, but I'm going to pull a fib from where, you know, where we actually broke this micro trend. So from where we pivoted bullishly there, where we started our recovery to where we are right now, just chasing the price. You can see that my purple box is at my 786, 886 STUBER Fibonacci pocket. So that's kind of the level that I'm looking at. Obviously, yeah, even if we ended up going down there, there would be a lot of bounces on the way. It would take a long time to get there because this is a 4 hour chart, not a 5 minute chart. And a lot of people don't have patience. That being said, guys, there is some other potential long setups loading. It's just that I don't have them in my favor yet. I would consider playing a bounce if we get down towards this support level here. But that wouldn't be much of a swing entry for me. That would be more looking for some sort of a bounce scalp or whatever. Another thing that would lead me to actually get bullish and to think that there's reasonable swing opportunities to the upside is if we actually break the highs. Not that I would want to FOMO in, but even at that point, we could still pull back and it could still be very bullish in that case, but just getting with a structure break, then getting a pullback, right? But what would show a little bit more strength would be if we break the highs like this and we just start staircasing, right? Because as we staircase, that means we now have new structure because this is our current high. We have not broke that high. So that's all there is to it. That is our high. We have not broke this low here. So we are still in that range. No matter how you look at it, we're still in that very large range and play the range until it breaks. But if we end up setting a higher high, we have new structure. That would still make this the higher low, which seems a little bit ridiculous. But when you really zoom out, again, looking at it for a zoomed out 4 hour swing type of setup, that's the big macro higher low, right? But if we end up setting a couple higher highs, all of a sudden we have confirmed higher lows on the trend. And at that point, I would be very interested in longing some pullbacks, specifically something like this, right? But again, just like looking for something down here, it's going to take a while to play out because obviously it's a long time frame for what I'm used to waiting for. I don't really see that happening for weeks at this point. But anything can happen. The chart can change structure very quickly. So it is what it is. Let me just catch up on the chat a little bit. Let me know how you are all doing. Let me know how you guys feel on the market. Do you think I'm totally out to lunch by even considering the possibility that we could see a pullback? I know a lot of people get emotional about it. I personally don't care which way we go. I'm a trader. I mean, yeah, I would love to see us pump to the upside for my investment sakes. But as far as trading, I just want it to be volatile. I really don't care because as long as you're not hoping for a home run trade every time, as long as you're paying yourself on the way, even if you're wrong on trade theories, trade setups, you can be wrong and you can still profit depending how you execute your trades, right? So, being able to react and being able to actually execute a position is so much more important than just being able to get your analysis right. Because I know so many people have great analysis and cannot trade for the life of them. Just like I have a lot of people who are excellent traders who don't even pretend that they know where the price is going to go. They just know that they have their certain setups, and when their criteria is met, they pull the trigger and take the trade. So that is very important to consider when thinking about trading in general, you guys. Thank you all again for being here with me. If you do appreciate my level-headed approach in the charts, you appreciate me sharing some of my favorite trade strategies and all that sort of stuff, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these live streams. And if you want more examples of how I look at structure, how I pull my fibs, some of my trade setup ideas, right? As I said, this trade that I'm currently in, I did share it when we ended up getting back up to that resistance pocket, right? This was just looking at it ahead of time, see that, hey, we came up to this level. I figured it was either a good time to start laddering into lower leverage shorts or waiting for a shorter time frame to break. We ended up getting a shorter time frame break, and that's when I took it. But yeah, hit TP1, eventually hit TP2. We did actually get a nice bounce and almost got stopped out on the remaining half of my position at break even, but not quite. It's still hanging on there, and I'm hoping that we absolutely nuke this price action here with the remaining half of my position. Because as I mentioned, guys, just because I took a short there, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're just going straight down to that, 93 or 82K targets, right? I am playing the range first, and being this is how I have a Fibonacci pulled for my 5-minute setup. That means that my first two take profits were hit, right? The entry was here. First take profit is the 0.5 fib. Second take profit is the 214 fib. At that point, it's risk-free, and we see what happens with the other half of my position. Either it's going to run or it's going to get stopped at break even. And either way, it was a winning trade. So I don't really care. Thoughts on Griffin? I will check that out in a little bit. That one has been flying recently, I know. I will get into that when I get into the altcoins here. I see a Bitcoin to 93K. I personally agree, but again, I'm happy to be wrong as well. Because just like I said earlier, I would love to see this market go parabolic. I want that just like everybody else. And I think that's something a lot of people fail to understand when they get upset with me for being bearish, is that they think that that's what I want. I'm personally wanting ill wishes against their investments and stuff like that. No, guys, it's nothing like that. I still hold most of my crypto. I am thinking about taking some profits off my spot. I am thinking about selling a good chunk. If I end up pulling the trigger on that, there's a few ways that I can handle it, right? If we just, out on the daily here, like let's say right now, being we are at a major resistance level, if I do end up selling a bunch of my spot position from these levels here, if we end up breaking all-time highs, the thing is, I can either wait for a pullback and hopefully get right back into the market at the same level. Or like I said earlier, I was a heavy buyer down at below 20K when I thought that the market had bottomed. And so at that point, if I do sell some up here at around 100K and I don't get that retrace where I'm able to get back into the market with that amount of spot, that's okay. I'll consider it taking partial profits at that point, just like any other position, right? Just on a spot level rather than leverage. That's totally fine. I got bills to pay. I have things to buy. I don't mind taking profits once in a while. So we're going to have to see what happens there. Weekly bullish cross incoming. Please explain why not, in my opinion. Weekly bullish cross, I assume you're talking moving averages. I personally don't use moving averages that much. That being said, like I said, guys, I do see reasons for both. I do see reasons to be cautious on the bearish side as well. Good example here with my Trendmaster indicator. We have this big buy signal here. This was a lower buy. This is something that I like to use, not just this indicator, indicators in general. I like to notice how they're trending rather than looking for individual signals. So back here, since we topped back in January, we just had a series of lower buy signals and lower sell signals. So it's not that every buy signal was accurate, but if you notice that they're trending to the downside and playing the sell signals, you're going to have better luck. But now what we have, we've obviously invalidated that, right? We had these lower sell signals, and now the next one is going to be a much higher one. So at that point, when indicators start climbing to the upside, or we start getting those signals printing to the upside, proving that the trend is still there, that would be great. But I think that at any point we could end up getting a sell signal here, and we could end up getting back down to that support level. Honestly, I would feel much better about Bitcoin. Like we're still holding this buy support so far, but it does look like, being we are at resistance, it could roll over at any time. But I would actually be significantly more bullish on Bitcoin if we do get a proper retest, right? I don't like that the price currently is just, going straight to the upside. Although, like I said, we did break some structure here. So we'll see what happens with that. But I would love to see that pullback. I would love to see a retest of support, see if these levels are actually important, and that, we're going to get reactions off the levels that I would expect to see reactions. Make sure that the price is still moving in a healthy manner, because at this point, I know this price action is driving a lot of people nuts. But when you really look at it, nothing has really changed all week, right? Even on the 5-minute, like I said, when we broke this uptrend, that's when I ended up shorting the retest, and nothing has changed since that. Okay, that retest, that was on Tuesday. It was Tuesday morning for me. And since that, the chart has not changed. We have not broke the high of this range. We have not broke the low of this range. We are just stuck in this range, even on the 5-minute. Yes, you can find smaller ranges inside the ranges, because there's always bigger ranges inside bigger ranges inside bigger ranges, kind of a thing. But as it stands right now, really nothing has happened. All of this is just chop inside of one range. And as it stands right now, I'm still favoring the downside, because, when we lost this uptrend, that happened while we were in a bigger level of resistance, right? We're getting bearish STUBER fibs inside bearish STUBER fibs. So that's kind of my favorite scenario, to be favoring the short side of things. But like I said, I have taken partial profits on the way, because again, it's not safe banking on home run trades, right? Yeah, it feels great when you actually hit one. And yeah, if this ends up absolutely taking off, and let's say we end up hitting my targets of 93, 82,000 US dollars, of course it would be way cooler if I had the whole position still open. But generally speaking, the price loves to range a lot more than it's trending, right? So you're always seeing the price get choppy. Yeah, it has its breakouts, and then it gets real choppy for a while again. So I always like to play the range first and look for the breakout after. I also don't want to miss the breakout, right? That's why I don't close entire positions. I always leave some running just in case, because if it's risk-free, why not? And then if I'm ever asking myself, hey, if things reversed here and I end up round tripping this position, would I be upset? If the answer is yes, then I'll take a little more profits off my position. Just a little bit of risk management there, right? So, and again, guys, this is all kind of ideas that I'm teaching in my Telegram channel, just showing how I look at structure, some of my general thoughts on the markets, how I pull my Fibonacci's and that sort of stuff, just levels to look for, why I'm cautious at certain levels, why I take my entries where I do, and that sort of thing. So do yourselves a favor, scan that QR code or click on the link and follow the steps in the description down below for that. Other than that, guys, I think that's mostly what I wanted to talk about on Bitcoin here. I will get into a few altcoins. Solana is another one. I actually posted about a long that I took. There was a little bit of a STUBER long on Solana. My first entry was up right in the middle of this fib pocket. I think I'm going to get stopped out on this position. That's fine. It's a little bit of a hedge towards my Bitcoin shorts, the way I'm looking at it. I did bring my average entry down because I was just laddering into the position as I like to do. I would not be surprised if we end up just the fact that we never got a nice strong reaction before or just shy of the 115, basically. The fact that we're coming back down to this level is showing a little bit of weakness, in my opinion. But my reasoning for that is just that same Fibonacci pull, right? We did get a nice little reaction there. But as far as how it looks right now, it is looking a little weak. So we'll see. Next buy level that I kind of see on Solana, I would be looking at the previous range here, looking at support and basically looking at the same thing, right? If we lost this range here, then we very well could be going to the support levels of the previous range. And that would lead me to something like so. What was it? Was it on the daily? I feel like there was another fib, whatever. But yeah, that's Solana. If it doesn't hold this level, like if it ends up dumping and not getting much of a reaction off this level, or even just getting some sort of a dead cat bounce, and then, you know, even hitting one target and then going significantly lower, you know, if the market is going to panic, then we got to start thinking about the realistic possibility that it's going back to the bottom of the range and we would have something like this. So I'm just going to map that one out as well. All of my potential STUBER fib boxes that I see, interested, more so looking at them as potential buy levels, see what the price ends up doing on shorter time frames in those levels, basically. But those are a few important levels that I'm currently looking at on Solana. Someone was asking about Graphane. I believe that's made by the same people. I think the people of Solana had something to do with Graphane, speaking of the two. I know this one has had a wild recovery lately. What was it? The 4 hour. Oof. Okay, I have some concerns about that now, but yeah, basically, let's go back down here when we actually ended up breaking the downtrend. Let's just say when we broke this level here, notice what ended up happening. Not too surprised. We come down to that fib pocket and get our retest. Or sorry, that wasn't before, that wasn't after breaking this level. Sorry, that was after breaking the downtrend right here. Because here we had our low and our lowest low. So on the downtrend, that's our smallest microstructure. This was the lower high on the micro trend. We end up breaking it. That's where we get our pull back to that support box, retest it. And that's when I get very bullish. So yeah, that was absolutely beautiful. The percentage gains that has had since that, what has that gone up? That was almost a 500% move to the upside, you guys. So that's the thing, right? A lot of altcoins are moving very nicely. And I know I've talked about this in the last couple streams, that even if Bitcoin is going to see a little bit of punishment, let's say that it is going to see a rejection off this macro resistance here, a lot of altcoins never did get to that macro resistance again. So I personally think that there's still a lot of room to the upside, unless the market gets spooked. Obviously, you know, if Bitcoin can kind of maintain some sort of stable, healthy price action, even if it's downtrending, that doesn't necessarily mean unhealthy. It's more so if it just like capitulates where, yeah, something spooks the markets, then I think altcoins will get absolutely devastated with it. But as it stands right now, quite often what you'll see in market cycles is when Bitcoin ends up topping, or even if it's just a temporary top, right? Just topping in general, quite often you'll see altcoins make a push after that, right? As those profits start diversifying, moving around, all that sort of stuff. Confidence is a little higher, etc. But yeah, just notice that we are nowhere near that same type of structure on a lot of these altcoins, like Solana, for example. Still such a far ways away. Not to say we have to get up there. That would be another 50% push to the upside. Doesn't have to happen. But if it's going to do what Bitcoin did, that's just a very typical pullback after a structure break, basically. With Graphane, with something like this. So here's where this would be the 4 hour here. The most micro trend that I can find at this point does give me a few concerns. The fact that we had this high, this would be our highest high on the trend. So this would have been our confirmed higher low, and we've obviously broke that. So even if this were to bounce, this is basically the signal that I would be looking for triggering a STUBER fib pull, right? So I would just basically at that point, it's not that I'd be, I have my concerns and I think it has some potential bearish structure there, but it's not like I'm saying that we have to continue just absolutely nuking from here. We could see a very healthy bounce and still end up finding a little bit of resistance up here. So if we do get a bounce up to this level, that's where I'd start to kind of watch what's going on the lower time frames. At that point, I would be very interested in trying to find some shorts on a 5 minute, for example, trying to find a 5 minute STUBER inside the 4 hour STUBER, just like what I did with Bitcoin, right? Curry, I did not refuse to show the weekly. I was just catching up on things. Weekly, I did show that we're at the same resistance level, right? There is something bullish on this chart I want to point out. We do have this momentum indicator rolling to the upside here. Got a nice little bullish pivot over here as well. So I will give credit to that. Something that does give me a lot of concerns with the weekly chart right now is the RSI divergence. I still think there's a little room to go a little bit higher here if that is going to happen, that we could see the RSI climb up to the 70 level. That's the ideal bearish scenario I was hoping for, was that the RSI would have got up to the 70 level, so a little bit higher. But let me just explain what's happening with this divergence here. This is the RSI, the relative strength index. So in an uptrend, when you have overbought conditions, it's not necessarily overbought. That's actually just a shit ton of strength in the trend. But what we have right now is that we have got to the same level of resistance that we could not break with a ton of strength in the market. We are now at the same level of resistance, just getting to it, right? It still goes a little bit higher, but we are at the same resistance level with significantly less strength. A lot of people would say, well, the RSI has cooled off. Yeah, if that's something that you've specifically back tested, this is a specific divergence. Well, the one that I like I said, I wish it would have went a little bit higher. It's not perfect for what I want to see, but we are just seeing a lot less strength at the same level of resistance that we couldn't break last time. So that's what the weekly divergence is showing. So that is my reason for thinking that the weekly doesn't necessarily have to be bullish anymore. Again, yes, I am giving you a lot of bearish theories, but I do think that the bears need to be careful as well, right? I'm not saying YOLO 100x shorts into resistance right now. I'm saying that, hey, I laid out exactly, basically exactly when we started getting into resistance. I laid out that resistance, why I was looking at playing a short there. And I have taken profits on that short. Like I said, I only have half of that running. So yes, I'm saying that I think the price is going down, but I'm not YOLOing into shorts. I still have proper risk management. I'm still playing with a level head. I'm open to the idea that we absolutely blast through resistance and go parabolic. Like I said, I would love to see it for my investment's sake. And that's why I've protected myself already. One of the biggest things about trading is actually protecting your capital. Without that, it's pretty freaking hard to make money consistently. So luckily for us, trading and being a weatherman are basically the two jobs where we can absolutely be wrong with our theories and we can still get paid from it. So at the end of the day, all that matters is having a a trade strategy that you can execute repeatedly over and over. Other than that, it doesn't really matter. I can say it's going up. I can say it's going down. Honestly, nobody knows for sure. A lot of people have their educated guesses. Everyone likes to play their probabilities. We all have our back tested strategies. Hopefully you're not trading without a back tested strategy anyways. And other than that, we'll just have to see what happens. Can I look at MSTR? I would love to look at MicroStrategy. I believe last time I was here, I think I mapped out a couple things. I know we were getting close to resistance. MicroStrategy isn't quite at that macro resistance yet. Same thing, I'd be pulling a fib from there to where we bottomed. That's my purple box there. This is still holding an uptrend as long as basically, well, I guess my last stream, I already had this mapped out and nothing has changed since, right? On the micro trend, the macro trend, yeah, we have resistance to watch out for up at this level. The micro trend, we still have this higher high, confirmed higher low. So this green line here, as long as we hold above that, we are still aggressively trending to the upside. If we end up losing this, that's where I would start to consider the possibilities that we're going to see some sort of a lower retest, see resistance come in, some sort of a double top, a STUBER fib, whatever. At that point, it's at least reasonable to look for a bearish setup. But as it stands right now, this micro trend is still pushing to the upside. Resistance is close, but we'll have to see. And this is one of those things where if Bitcoin just blasts through my resistance and goes parabolic, like I would love to see, in that case, MicroStrategy, I'm assuming, is going to fly and actually probably outperform it. I find that MicroStrategy usually acts so very similar to Bitcoin, but add a little leverage to it. It's just a little bit more volatile. So that's kind of what I'd be looking for there. Trend master indicator, we still have this buy trend as well. So that support lining up very closely with that higher low that I had pointed out there. A little bit of confluence there for you. That's invalid at this point. We got the daily open. Basically, we're trading right around the daily open. We are below the weekly open a little ways. Liquidations. What kind of liquidations do we have? High leverage ones. Kind of mixed signals there. We're seeing them from both sides. Actually, that's something I wanted to check on Bitcoin as well. I did want to check out liquidations. And there's another interesting piece of information right there is notice that a lot of liquidations are starting to open up to the downside. And in fact, they line up very closely with my 786 from the bullish side of things. So yeah, if I was a market maker, I would love to grab this liquidity. So again, does it mean we have to? No, absolutely not. The markets do not care at all about our feelings. They make that very clear every single day. But does it make sense that we could drop down to those levels? Absolutely. You know, there's money to grab for the big players. Why not? So again, if we start setting lower lows, you know, we continue breaking this and staircasing lower, well, then I think this becomes a very realistic possibility. MSTR keeps getting shorted. Yeah, like I said, it's got a little room to go, I think, but it's starting to get close to resistance. Sorry, let me just catch up on the chat a little bit. Let me know in the chat, you guys, how you feel about the markets. If you think that things are going parabolic any day now, if you think we are going down to the abyss any day now, if you just don't know what the heck to think, let me know in the chat. Yeah, Red Panda, as he mentioned, Stu is scalp, smaller time frame in general. Yeah, exactly. I'm more so an active scalper, active trader, whatever. But like I said, even though I took this trade on a 5-minute, I've been in this trade since Tuesday. For me, that's actually a long time holding a position. But again, obviously, I was taking profits as we hit my targets. And from there, we just kind of see what happens. YOLO 1000x short one time. I do like to live dangerously. Don't threaten me with a good time. But no, seriously, guys, be careful with leverage in general. If you're new to trading, honestly, I don't think you should even be using leverage. I never used leverage for my first year and a half, or what would it have been? Yeah, about a year. I mostly just, even when I wanted to short things, I would just look to sell and buy back cheaper to coin accumulate, just to kind of keep my emotions at bay and not look at it as money so much, look at it as coin collecting. But then obviously when I kind of figured out the game of trading a little bit, that's when leverage became a lot more appealing at that point. Aren't there too many longs in the market to reach new all-time highs directly? So, actually, shockingly, one thing that is keeping, honestly, one of the better points for the bulls is that retail is still quite short heavy. A lot of people kind of gave up on the bull market with that, with how long that downtrend lasted there. And now, like, we only have 40% Binance retail long right now. That's actually quite low compared to what we've seen other times where we've been at resistance levels. You see that start climbing towards like 70%. So that is one thing that could provide rocket fuel, that could provide that short squeeze liquidity. But that is just one thing, right? Greed is actually getting fairly aggressive at this point. People love bringing up the fear and greed index when it's fearful. They tend to ignore it when it says greed because most people prefer the upside. So that's something to consider. Kind of mixed signals here on those metrics, but something to consider anyways. So here on the 5-minute with the Trendmaster indicator, notice that as I was talking about earlier, we have a series of, we have printed a lower buy signal and we have printed a couple of lower sell signals. So if the bears on this very small time frame, right, very small 5-minute scalpy time frame here, if we are going to hold this downtrend, this trend of lower sell signals, I wouldn't really want to see the bulls push above, what is that, right around 103, 150, call it, just this high back here, because that is the last point where we found I guess, our recent rejection before our new sell signal here. So if the bears are going to remain in full control on more of a scalpy time frame right now, I really wouldn't want to see the price push above that. If it does, then it's very possible that we're just going back towards the top of this range, right? But we'll have to see. Yeah. Anyways, guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you guys found this stream useful. Like I said, I got to leave town here. I got a kite surfing event to go hit up for a few days. So good luck in the charts out there, my friends. If you did appreciate this stream, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these live streams. And as I mentioned, if you want access to my private Telegram channel where I share some of my theories, some of my trade setup ideas, some of my overall thoughts on the market in general, there is a link down below for that, as well as the QR code on the screen. And as well, guys, my partners at BloFin are currently giving those of you who are in my Telegram, you're getting this special promotion for deposit and trading volume bonuses. This is still active for approximately a week. It ends on May 25th. So if that is something that interests you, do yourselves a favor and take advantage of that as well. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.